To understand the Battle of the Alamo, we must first explore the complex history that led to this pivotal moment. In the early 1800s, Texas was part of the vast Spanish territory known as New Spain. Following Mexico's independence from Spain in 1821, Texas became a part of the newly established Mexican nation. During this period, the Mexican government sought to populate and develop the sparsely settled region of Texas. They encouraged immigration by offering land grants to settlers. One of the first to take advantage of this opportunity was Moses Austin, an American settler who secured permission to bring 300 American families to Texas. After Moses Austin's death, his son Stephen Austin fulfilled his father's vision, bringing in settlers who later became known as the Old 300. The settlers, primarily from the United States, were attracted by the promise of land and economic opportunity. However, cultural and political differences between the settlers and the Mexican government quickly emerged. The settlers, who were used to the democratic traditions of the United States, found it difficult to adapt to the centralized and often authoritarian Mexican rule. In 1833, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna rose to power in Mexico, initially presenting himself as a federalist who would support greater autonomy for the Mexican states. However, once in power, Santa Anna shifted to a centralist government, abolishing the Constitution of 1824, which had guaranteed states' rights, and imposing stricter controls from Mexico City. These actions sparked unrest throughout Mexico, particularly in Texas, where settlers began to resist Mexican authority. Tensions escalated as the settlers sought to restore the Federalist Constitution and secure more autonomy for Texas. The Texans, as they called themselves, formed militias and began to take control of local governments. In October 1835, open conflict erupted at the Battle of Gonzales, often considered the first battle of the Texas Revolution. Following this, Texan delegates convened a consultation, a provisional government that declared Texas's right to self-defense against Santa Anna's tyranny. The Texan forces, although poorly equipped and trained, achieved a series of victories against Mexican garrisons, capturing key locations such as Goliad and San Antonio. During this period, leaders like Sam Houston, Stephen Austin, and James Fannin emerged, rallying support for the Texan cause. One of the critical strategic points was the Alamo, a former Spanish mission in San Antonio de Bejar. The Texan forces fortified the Alamo, recognizing its strategic importance in controlling the region. By early 1836, approximately 300 Texan defenders occupied the Alamo, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel William Travis and renowned frontiersman James Bowie. Travis, a young and determined lawyer-turned-soldier, shared command with Bowie, a seasoned adventurer famous for his formidable knife-fighting skills. Despite their differences, both men were committed to holding the Alamo against any Mexican attack. They were soon joined by Davy Crockett, a former U.S. congressman and a legendary frontiersman, who arrived with a small group of Tennessee volunteers, adding both strength and moral to the garrison. As the Texans prepared to defend the Alamo, Santa Anna was already on the march with a large and disciplined army. His goal was clear: to suppress the Texan rebellion and reassert Mexican control over Texas. Santa Anna's troops arrived in San Antonio on February 23, 1836, beginning the Siege of the Alamo. The siege lasted for 13 grueling days. Santa Anna's forces bombarded the Alamo with artillery, aiming to weaken the defenders' resolve. Despite being vastly outnumbered and outgunned, the Texans held their ground, hoping for reinforcements from the Texan army. Inside the Alamo, conditions were dire. Food and ammunition were running low, and the constant bombardment took its toll on both the physical structure and the defenders' morale. Travis's famous letter, written during the siege, pleaded for help, ending with the defiant words, "Victory or death." In his letter, Travis wrote, "To the people of Texas and all Americans in the world, fellow citizens and compatriots, I am besieged by thousands or more of Mexicans under Santa Anna. I have sustained a continual bombardment and cannonade for 24 hours, and I haven't lost a man. The enemy has demanded a surrender at discretion. Otherwise, the garrison are to put to the sword if the fort is taken. I have answered the demand with a cannon shot, and our flag still waves proudly from the walls. I shall never surrender or retreat. Travis's plea for reinforcements reached General Sam Houston, but he faced immense difficulties in mobilizing a timely response. Houston was consolidating forces and strategizing for a larger campaign. The Texans at the Alamo, despite their isolation, represented a critical part of Houston's broader strategy to delay Santa Anna and weaken his forces. In the pre-dawn hours of March 6, 1836, Santa Anna launched a final, full-scale assault on the Alamo. Mexican troops attacked from multiple directions, overwhelming the already exhausted defenders. Despite a valiant resistance, the Texans were ultimately overrun. The battle was brutal, with fierce hand-to-hand combat within the compound's walls. Nearly all the Texan defenders were killed, including Travis, Bowie, and Crockett. Accounts vary, but it is believed that only a few women, children, and slaves survived the battle. Santa Anna's troops suffered significant casualties as well, with estimates of around 600 Mexican soldiers killed or wounded. The fall of the Alamo was a devastating defeat for the Texans, but it became a rallying point for the cause of Texan independence. The cry of "Remember the Alamo" inspired Texan forces in subsequent battles. Just over a month later, on April 21, 1836, General Sam Houston led the Texan army to a decisive victory at the Battle of San Jacinto, capturing Santa Anna and securing Texas independence.